My great-grandparents came to Ellis Island, and they're greeted with the words of Emmett Lazarus, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." And that sentiment, I think, is what drives me to do what I do. I handle the arrival of incoming refugee families.
Robert Evans is a caseworker for the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants. He's on his way to Raleigh-Durham International Airport to pick up a refugee family from Iraq.
Basically, it's up to me or my coworkers to be there at the airport with an interpreter.
Raleigh, North Carolina. Okay, so
greet them and take them to their new home.
Yeah, he was born in Iraq, though.
I think there's nothing more American in helping these people get here and make a good life for them. They have the same hopes and dreams that any of us do.
Welcome, North Carolina. My name is Robert.
Welcome to North Carolina.
Welcome.
They are the first words spoken by USCRI caseworkers who greet refugee families at RDU.
And you can immediately see, like, the tension ease, at least to some extent. The names and faces and countries of origins change, and the specifics of the situation change, but at the core, it's people seeking safety, seeking hope, seeking opportunity.
Today, the names and faces are Hussein al-Hafaji, his wife Ahud, their 6-year-old daughter Zahra, and their 2-year-old daughter Danya.
When the plane was around North Carolina, trying to land, I felt like it was a year trying to get there.
Hussein and his family are greeted at the airport by his aunt and uncle who came to Raleigh as Iraqi refugees nearly 4 years ago. They haven't seen each other since.
you can say I'm happy, but what you feel, it's very hard. It's something difficult to say. What is it?
It was just so good, so nice. We were crying without really knowing why we are crying.
Before I forget, let me give you my card. I'll be your caseworker for the next 3 months.
That was the most emotional reunion I've ever seen. It reminded me why I do this. I think that's my favorite part.
Evans leads Hussein, Ahud, and their children out of the airport.
I think you'll like your new house.
He takes them to their new home in Raleigh. Hussein and Ahud's aunt and uncle found this small townhouse. They helped with the rent and they helped furnish it.
She said, "Thank you so much."
There are toys for the children. And Ali gives Hussein a used car he fixed up himself.
Ali, did you just give him a car?
When he gave me the key, I didn't believe that he was giving me a car.
The family gets time to rest and get settled. The next day, Evans returns to check in and begin the resettlement process.
So basically, I just here just to ask some questions, see if everything's all right, talk about what's going to be happening in the next week.
Evans finds out about the family's medical needs, their work history, and their goals for the first year of living in North Carolina.
So I think learning English, finding work is a reasonable expectation.
He describes the services USCRI offers and gives them a $3,700 check to cover rent, food, medicine, transportation, and other costs.
You can always call me over the weekend, let me know if anything happens. Our job is to check on you, help you with your housing, enroll you in ESL classes.
On their 4th day in North Carolina, Hussein and Ahud attend an orientation about USCRI's resettlement program at the agency's office in downtown Raleigh.
food stamp benefits, Medicaid.
وها مال الفود ستام ايضا والميديكيد كلها يقدموا لكم اياها ان شاء الله يقدموا لكم استمارات لها.
Help your children get into school. So there are employment staff here that will help you find a job.
Hi, I'm Penny. I work in the clothing ministry here at First Baptist, and we're so glad you're here.
In the afternoon, Evans takes the family to a local church to get clothes.
Oh, that's a good jacket. Very warm jacket. Try it on.
They probably haven't been able to get anything new or any new clothes for years now.
Yes, I like that. Yes, very good, very good. Well, thank you, and welcome to America. We're delighted you're here.
Something to ask you questions in English.
2 days later, Hussein and Ahud are back at the USCRI office for an English assessment.
Where are you from?
I'm from Iraq.
It's the first step in a series of English classes.
Where do you live now?
Now, America.
We try to work with Wake Tech to put them in English language that matches their level.
How long have you lived in the United States?
I live 1 week.
The next day, Evans takes Hussein and Ahud to apply for Social Security cards.
For them, it grants them membership to one of the most elite clubs in the world. You have your Social Security cards.
They picked up their Social Security cards at the USCRI office 5 days later.
Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm a refugee nurse. I have a family of 4 from Iraq.
On day 12, Hussein, Ahud, and their daughters go to the Wake County Public Health Department for a medical screening.
Any chronic medical problems at all for her? Okay.
The family also gets vaccinations.
Do you read to her?
On day 14, Hussein and Ahud take Zahara to the Wake County Public School System's Center for International Enrollment to get her enrolled in school.
Was she in preschool?
No.
Never?
Never.
CIE staff evaluate Zahra's mental health, educational level, and English proficiency.
So when the student starts school, day one, all the appropriate services are in place. So the student will have English language support from day one.
We are going to be putting her in kindergarten.
Okay.
Book?
Zahra is enrolled in a Raleigh elementary school.
He missed the last 3, 10, 11, and 12.
During his third week in North Carolina, Hussein fails to pass the driver's license exam. It's a glimpse of the road ahead and the challenges he and his family will encounter as they try to resettle here.
It's kind of a long uphill battle to get back to where they were.
Where they were in their birthplace of Baghdad. Hussein and Ahud, who are Muslim, were college-educated professionals. He worked in IT as an engineer and she was a teacher, but Iraq became too dangerous for them.
There is no peace. It is not safe at all. Nowhere. We don't go out. We don't go out as a family together, go to have fun somewhere. We just stayed in the house. That's it.
I lost friends and family members. I had a choice, my job or my family and my life. So I decided to take my life and my family and leave Baghdad. What I saw in my life, I don't want my kids to see. I want a better life for my kids. That's why I decided to leave Iraq.
Hussein and Ahud fled to Turkey.
It was like almost 48 hours and I was sitting in the car in the same position and I was pregnant and holding a baby. It was really hard for me to sit like that all that time.
They spent nearly 3 years in Turkey waiting to be declared refugees. Their aunt and uncle, Abia and Ali, had left Iraq and resettled in North Carolina in 2012.
We start without anything, so that's really hard, but it's worth to do it.
Because they had family already settled here, Hussein and Ahud had the chance to come to the United States and to North Carolina.
I heard that America is pretty much the best country I can get to. I heard it was the country of freedom. So that's why I decided to come here.
Freedom.
You just got me. Wow. Wow. Wow.
I was moved by Hussein's desire for the freedom so many of us seem to take for granted, especially after all he and Ahoud had been through.
I cannot believe myself I am here.
If I win, they're going back. They're going back.
Next, politics puts refugees in an uncomfortable spotlight.
They're playing on American fears. And unfortunately, it often works.
And how does the vetting process work for refugees coming to North Carolina?
It's a very intense, detailed process.
مرحبا بكم في North Carolina.
Karibu ku North Carolina.
A photographer taking cover captured the chaos as explosions and gunfire rocked the Bataclan Theater.
On November 13th, terrorists linked to the Syrian-based Islamic State killed 130 people and injured another 368 in Paris.
Gunmen armed with AK-47-style weapons opened fire.
People continue to come by the hundreds, even in the rain, to come mourn the loss of the people who died here in Paris. Even though the attackers were European Union citizens, dozens of Republican U.S. governors said they wanted to put a stop to Syrian refugees coming to their states.
I am now requesting that the President and the federal government cease sending refugees from Syria to North Carolina until we are thoroughly satisfied with the effectiveness of the federal background checks and security checks conducted on such refugees entering our country.
December 2nd, 2015, Syed Farouk and Tashfid Malik shot and killed 14 people and seriously injured another 22 in San Bernardino, California. It was an ISIS-inspired homegrown terror attack that inspired anti-Muslim rhetoric.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Trump repeated his call for a ban on Muslims entering the country after the Brussels bombings in March.
I have no doubt that we have no choice.
But Scott Phillips, the director of the North Carolina office of the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, says the rhetoric reflects a misunderstanding of how refugees come into this country.
It's not just like somebody said, oh, I want to come to America, and they get on a plane and they show up.
Phillips says refugees go through an intense vetting process that takes 2 to 3 years.
People will be reviewed, vetted, security checked, background checked, everything, biometrics are looked at, all that, and that's done overseas, and they're given refugee status before they even are sent to the U.S.
Phillips says there are much easier ways for terrorists to get into the U.S. than posing as refugees and going through an intense vetting process. Other experts agree.
It's just absurd. It doesn't happen. And I think the United States has the kind of guarantees in the program available to make sure that doesn't happen. It's just not something that a terrorist with a plan is going to choose.
Kirk and Phillips say politicians are playing on American fears.
There was a reaction based on not a full sense of understanding what the process is and how the process works. And, it is a political season right now. And I think that does play into what was said.
Last year, nearly 2,400 refugees came to North Carolina from 30 countries, including 32 refugees from Syria. In addition to the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants, there's also a state refugee office and several faith-based organizations across the state that help resettle refugees in North Carolina. As you saw with Hussein and Ahoud, these organizations help with things like housing, medical needs, language skills, school enrollment, and employment. Phillips says each refugee gets about $1,200, mostly from the federal government, to help cover their costs during the initial 90-day reception and placement period.
And most refugees at the end of that brief couple of months are self-sufficient. They're learning English, they're working, they're enrolling their children in school, they're attending their churches, they're on their way to becoming U.S. citizens.
State officials say 95% of refugees in North Carolina who received employment assistance last year found jobs within 3 months.
I think a lot of people sometimes lump all refugees in as like poor, unskilled labor. And it's like, well, no, they come from all walks of life in their host country.
Philip says the employment rate for refugees is higher than for other people seeking jobs in our state.
They're more stably employed. Their contributions back to society is about a 10-to-1 ratio with public dollars spent on them.
That contribution comes from paying for goods and services and paying local, state, and federal taxes. Refugees must also pay back the federal government for their airline travel to the U.S.
Good morning.
Cultural orientation classes are also part of the resettlement process.
A larger family would obviously qualify for...
The organizations that work with refugees say it's important to understand who refugees are.
Refugees are people. A refugee is a legal status, but at the heart of the matter, they're people, and they're people looking out for their families and doing what they need to do to make sure their family's safe.
You know, you don't become an American because of what's in your blood. You become an American because of what you believe. And many refugees desperately want the kind of freedoms, the kind of society that we have. And when they are welcomed into our society, they just make us stronger because they believe in the same principles we do. They believe in democracy, they believe in hard work, they believe in school, they believe in worship, and they become part of the fabric of our society. And I think that inevitably makes us a stronger nation.
We have a tough time doing background checks on people in the United States, much less Syria.
Philip says the political uproar over Syrian and Muslim refugees has disturbed some of his clients.
There's been a sense of fear from some of our clients, but a majority of them have said, at least anecdotally from what I've heard from them, is that, yeah, but we know that's only a few people.
Philip says the political controversy over refugees has actually helped that cause.
We received so many phone calls from people with positive support for us, saying, you know, we are a hospitable state, we're welcoming to immigrants and refugees, and you know, they can come here and we're happy for them to come here. They make North Carolina stronger. You know, those folks that are talking hate, that ain't my North Carolina.
Next, after 3 months in Raleigh, Hussein and Ahud are more settled, but still adjusting to life away from Baghdad.
It's a big difference.
Bienvenidos a Carolina del Norte.
Minglawa, nya Carolina ma chusu badi.
It's been 3 months since Hussein al-Hafaji, his wife Ahud, and their daughters Zahara and Danya arrived in North Carolina. It's the end of what the U.S. Committee for Refugees and Immigrants calls its reception and placement period.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Hussein eventually passed the driver's test and got his license.
The driver's license was very important because it helped me go find a job and go on trips with my family.
And he got a job. He works in the laundry room at the Courtyard Residence Inn at Briar Creek.
It's a startup job, but I have more ambition to get a better job than that. I like the job I used to do, dealing with technology, computers, internet.
Hussein wants to go back to school so he can do that in this country. He says it's like starting over.
No, right now it just reads itself.
Hussein and Ahud say their daughter Zahra is enjoying school.
She's so happy being at school. Now she started having friends. They gives her gifts. She gives them gifts back. She really loves it.
What do you think of Raleigh?
I really love it. I love Raleigh's people. I love the way they smile at you. I love the way they give you hope for the future. I really love Raleigh.
If I win, they're going back. They're going back.
As for the political backlash against refugees and Trump's call for a ban on Muslims coming to the U.S.,
I know Americans will not allow that to happen here.
Hussein and Ahud say they plan to stay in Raleigh.
All my life.
And they're making plans for the future.
The future,
all about my family. I do as much as I can to make my family better.
I want to see my kids go forward, get an education, as would I. I would love to go back into education, back to school again, and I would love to be a teacher again. A teacher here in America as I used to be back in Iraq.
But despite all of their optimism and progress, the last 3 months have not been easy.
I miss my family, my mom, my dad. It makes me sad. Lately, it's been giving me a lot of problems. missing my family.
Are you happy?
In the last 3 months, I was not that happy because there was a lot of stuff going on. But when I start my job, I'm getting happier and happier.
The biggest challenge so far has been the language barrier.
When I go to the market to buy something, I can grab it and buy it. But to have a conversation with someone about the product itself, it's a lot hard. Step by step, I will learn English.
Their aunt and uncle, Abia and Ali, who've been in Raleigh 4 years, still struggle.
My language, it will be perfect. It will be taking a long time. That's what I believe.
Despite the challenges, Ali says they all know they're lucky to be here.
It's like winning the big jackpot.
We noticed that Hussein and Ahud's English has improved since we first met them in February. We asked them if they would like to say something in English.
I like you and thank you very much.
I love to Raleigh. I love to United States. I love my family, my children, my job.